Hello, greetings everyone. So nice to see you all on Zoom this evening. Thanks for taking the time on this Monday evening to come learn about the specialized high schools and the specialized high schools admissions test. My name is Ashley Seenarine. I am a graduate of one of the specialized high schools. I graduated from Queens High School from the Sciences quite a while ago. But I can say, going through that experience, I know how valuable it was to be a part of that school. And as a first generation college student and a daughter of immigrants, it was really meaningful to me. And I'm excited to bring you all this wisdom this evening. We have a collection of folks who are really experts on this topic, from people who work at the Department of Education to alumni of the schools to prospective students who are going to be entering the schools soon. Just as a quick overview for this evening's agenda, we'll be going through an overview of the specialized high schools and the specialized high schools admissions test. We'll learn a little bit about how to prepare for that exam. We'll go a little deeper into each of the schools and learn about what they all have to offer. And then we'll have some times for a question and answer section, and we'll hear from some of the alumni of the schools. Before we turn it over to hear more about the process, I would love to pass it over to the man who made this all possible, Horace Davis, to say a few words.
All right, thank you so much, Ashley. I don't know if I can say that I am the man who made this happen. We do have probably the man who made this happen on the line, and that is Mr. Carl Clay. He is the director of Black Spectrum Theater, and he reached out to CASONY. For those of you not familiar with CASONY, that is the Caribbean American Society of New York, and wanted to have an opportunity to inform the community about the specialized high schools and the opportunities that they offer. And so with that, I have to thank Carl for his interests always in the community and our children in allowing this to take place. I know oftentimes when you hear specialized high schools, there's a lot of perspectives on the schools, diversity in the schools. So I just want to sort of address the big pink elephant potentially in the room right now, just to say that this information session is one, not to get into the various perspectives on these specialized high schools, but more than anything else, provide information to families focused on 5th, 6th, 7th graders so they can understand what this opportunity is all about, the difference that it can make in their children's lives, and what are some of the things that need to be done to prepare for this. And so with that, I will turn it back to Ashley. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Horace. And I'm just going to pass it right over to Christian, who is an enrollment specialist from the Department of Education, here to share all of his wisdom and knowledge about the specialized high school process. Christian, take it away.
Thank you. So we are going to be going over the specialized high school admissions process. One thing that I do want to highlight is that this process is under New York State law. So while you may hear things about the specialized high school admissions process for this upcoming year, we don't have dates put in place yet, and this does not affect the high school application process. So we just want to make sure that families are able to understand the difference between those things before I start sharing my screen and going through the presentation that we have today. So today I'm going to go over the specialized high school admissions process. It is going to be me speaking a good amount. I just want to make sure that families who are interested in testing over the course of the next school year are thinking about how to get prepared now. And then once I finish, I'll stop screen sharing for a second and pull up a resource that was actually released by the DOE a little while ago to help rising 8th graders and rising 9th graders that are interested in testing. So first, just to put it in a framework, I really want to make sure that families understand, because we get this question a lot. The specialized high schools is a separate admissions path from the high school application. And we can see here that the high school application, which is indicated on the left by the orange boxes, will be completely separate. Today, we're going to focus on the right side, which have the 8 testing specialized high schools, and then also the 1 addition school, which is LaGuardia. For the 8 testing specialized high schools, which we'll go over in a second, you will register for the specialized high school admissions test, which as of last year, we had the entire process in my schools, from registering for the exam to indicating the preferences and the order of the schools that you want to go to. You'll then take the specialized high school admissions test, and when results are released, you can receive up to one offer to the testing specialized high school. That does not mean that you're guaranteed an offer if you test. It just means that you can't get into two of the testing specialized high schools. We also have the audition school, which is LaGuardia, and you'll register to audition to the LaGuardia studio. This past year, we had students upload their audition materials, which LaGuardia then reviewed and administered offers based on those audition materials. It has not yet been determined by the Department of Education how they will take in those auditions, but students can still prepare for those auditions, whether they'll be virtual and submitted online or in person at the school, and can start thinking and looking into what previous year's auditions have been, or reach out to LaGuardia as well to see what that audition would be like. You can receive up to one offer for each program that you audition for at LaGuardia. And there are 6 total studios that you can audition for: dance, drama, vocal music, instrumental music, technical theater, and visual arts. You'll need to have a MySchools.nyc account to either register for the specialized high school admissions test or audition for the LaGuardia studios. Now, public school students already have their information in the DOE systems, and it's attached to their student ID number, which is a 9-digit number that starts with a 2 that's on most school documents. If you have moved into New York City recently and are not in a school, or if you are in a private or parochial school, you'll have to work with a family welcome center or your school counselor to make sure that your student gets created on MySchools. For those families who are part of private or parochial schools, you should start working with your counselors in September to be added to the account. You cannot get your account created right now. For students that are 7th graders about to go into 8th grade, you also will not have your MySchools account until this fall. This summer, what you can do, however, is begin to look into the different specialized high schools that you're interested in and the different LaGuardia studios. There's a lot of information on the LaGuardia website about the different studios that they have available, and you can go onto MySchools.nyc and look at the school directory to see the different programs and amenities at the different specialized high schools. When you get your welcome letter in the fall, as I mentioned previously, you're going to want to set up your MySchools account and make sure that all the information on there is correct. And then during the application period and registration period, you'll register for the test and those auditions. Please keep in mind, it's so important. To take part in the specialized high school process, you do need to register during the registration period. We have had instances in the past where families have attempted to show up to the specialized high school admissions test without registering, which we've done our best to accommodate them and allow them to test. But an already anxious and busy day just becomes more anxious for students when they've been unable to register. For LaGuardia, you need to register online before you give in those audition materials. This is important so that LaGuardia can match any potential offer with your student's profile. So we have put up videos about the high school admissions and specialized high school admissions online, and you can view those video series by going to the links provided. I'll make sure that Horace is able to send you all this presentation after the event tonight, so you don't have to worry about copying down the websites right now. We've also recently posted a guide to the specialized high school admissions test, which will work for the next administration of the specialized high school admissions test. And that's what I'll show you later once I finish going through the presentation, how you can find and open the document online. We will be coming out with more resources when the timeline is set in place and determined for next year for applying to high school, registering for the specialized high school admissions test, and for LaGuardia. We understand that families are eager for this information, and we are working on the lasting effects of the current pandemic while we reshift and get the timelines in place. We do want to highlight that last year, announcements were made regarding a timeline in late fall, and the first testing dates for the specialized high school admissions test were actually in late January 2021. We don't know for sure what the timeline is going to be in this next school year from fall 2021 to spring 2022. But as I mentioned earlier, you really want to start practicing and getting prepared. And that's going to fall into getting ready for the specialized high school admissions test, and working on workshopping any auditions that you plan on putting together for LaGuardia. Participating in the specialized high school admissions test, just as a reminder, all 8th graders throughout New York City, regardless of what school they go to or if they're homeschooled. For 9th grade students, it's their first time in 9th grade, regardless of what school they go to, they can also take part in the specialized high school admissions test or LaGuardia auditions for potential 10th grade seats. So I mentioned before that there were 8 testing specialized high schools, and just to hark back on them, there are at least one in each borough. So we have Bronx High School of Science, High School of American Studies at Lehman, the Brooklyn Latin School, Brooklyn Technical High School, where I went and also graduated from, Stuyvesant High School, High School for Math, Science, and Engineering at the City College of New York, Queens High School for Sciences at York, which my co-presenter Ashley graduated from, and Staten Island Technical High School. These schools can only be gotten into from the specialized high school admissions test. They do not have wait lists, and you can't simply transfer in from a different school. And again, for LaGuardia, there are 6 studios, and if you ever forget later on, after you hear this presentation, you can open back up the slide, and we have it detailed right here. For students who have accommodations, which can range from 504 accommodations to specific learning plans in private schools, you will want to make sure that when you register for the specialized high school admissions test, that those accommodations are appearing for those students. If you're wondering what types of accommodations are available for students on the specialized high school admissions test, it does match the types of accommodations that they are already receiving in their standard classroom instruction. The full list of possible accommodations can also be found in each year's guide to the specialized high school admissions test. English language learners also do receive accommodations on the specialized high school admissions test. And if when you're registering, you're ever confused or want to double check, it does appear on your receipt after you register. And then when you receive a ticket that tells you where and when you'll be taking the test, it should also appear there. So when offers are released, as I mentioned previously, you can receive up to 1 offer from the testing specialized high schools. You can receive up to 1 offer for each LaGuardia program you audition for. That means that if you audition for all 6 studios, all 6 programs, you could technically receive up to 6 offers from LaGuardia. Added to the 1 offer you can receive from the specialized high school admissions test, and then finally, the 1 offer that you can receive from the high school application, altogether you could receive up to 8 offers from this entire process. Right now, students who took part in the high school and specialized high school admissions process as 8th graders, they've recently received offers. And when you receive more than 1 offer, as some of those students are going through right now, you can then choose which offer you would like to accept. So if I got an offer at Brooklyn Technical High School and LaGuardia's drama studio, I would need to choose which one of those I was deciding to take part in and move forward through as a 9th grader the following fall. Remember that you can explore schools on the My Schools directory, on the high school website, and as schools begin to reopen, they may also have open houses that are available for you to go to. Many schools have also put up virtual open houses online, and you can also see which programs that they have by using the previous 2 resources. This page just has a bunch of different resources available on it, from the high school guide to signing up for email blasts to just our general schools.nyc.gov/hi. During the school year, never forget that you can go to your school counselor or a family welcome center or call our hotline for personalized support. And the MySchools.nyc directory is a free public online website that's available all year round. I'm going to stop screen sharing for a moment so that I can pull up the new guide to the specialized high school admissions test that was recently released online. And then I do want to talk about one thing that affects families every year who are interested in taking the specialized high school admissions test. So I'm going to reshare my screen right now. And I want to show you how I navigated to this so everyone can see. I just went to schools.nyc.gov/SHS. That's going to open out the full website. This is a specialized high school page. As I mentioned before, this is where the video series lives, where you can go back and view a lot of the information that I talked about today. And as the timeline gets solidified and we have more information, we'll be updating those as well. There's more information about students who are entering high school this fall and then for the next fall. There's a bunch of different information on the page, and recently released is Shazat materials, practice materials. So you can click this link, or you can choose specifically which section you want to open. But I'm just going to open the full guide, and then the document will open right into your browser window. And this has a lot of helpful information on preparing to take the test, getting ready for the test day, etc. So the one thing that I really wanted to talk about that happens every single year is choosing your preferences for specialized high schools. And what that means is when a student registers to take the exam, of the 8 specialized high schools that they have an option of choosing from, the students can decide which ones they want to go to, and if they scored high enough to get into any of them, which one they'd want to decide. So for me personally, when I was growing up, I lived in Brooklyn, very close to the Barclay Center, which was in walking distance to Brooklyn Tech. I also lived near the C train, which was easily travelable distance to Stuyvesant. So I knew that I wanted Brooklyn Tech to be my first choice and Stuyvesant to be my second choice. I still decided to put down the other specialized high schools in order, thinking if I didn't get into Brooklyn Tech, which one would I want second? If I didn't get into Stuyvesant, which one would I want third? Each year we have families who believe that they'll get into just their top choice, and they only put down one choice or 2 choices. I think that families should consider any specialized high school that they might want to go to and put them down in that order of preference, because you won't be forced to take that specialized high school offer. So if I got into my 5th choice and that was Bronx High School of Science, I could still go with my high school application offer instead if I decided to do so. But if I had only put Brooklyn Tech and Stuyvesant and I didn't get into either of those, and after offers were released, I thought, I actually would have wanted to put my hat in the ring for Bronx High School of Science. It's too late at that point. And every year we have families who wish that they could turn back the clock and add more schools to their choices. So I behoove you, please look into the schools. Please don't just decide on one option. Putting down more preferences on your specialized high school registration is only going to give your child the availability for more doors of opportunity. And again, you'll never be forced to take the specialized high school that you got into. So if you ultimately decide that that school is not for you, that's okay as well. Ashley, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Christian. Just thank you so much for that extremely informative presentation. I know that the specialized high school process can be intimidating and daunting for some families. So thank you for that presentation. And while we have your knowledge and your expertise here, I would love to open up the floor for just a few questions. If there are any questions, please drop them in the chat and then Christian can address them. But any wonderings or any thoughts that people are still pondering based on Christian's presentation? Well, Christian, I have a question for you. What would you advise the factors to be for families to consider when they're trying to decide on a school? So I know location's usually a big one. What are some other factors that they should think about?
I definitely think that, and this won't be the case for all families, but I know that some students, have thought 10 years down the line to thinking about where they want to go to college and what they want to major in and things like that. If they have any areas of interest that they have, I think they should definitely look into, what's available at those schools. And even if you don't, I definitely think that you should look at the curriculum and the size of the school, because those are really important. Brooklyn Tech, for instance, is the largest public high school in the US. Right? And that might be daunting for some students. So they may want a smaller specialized high school, like Queens High School for the Sciences at York, or a high school of math, science, and engineering at City College. Something that Brooklyn Tech does that helps break that up, if you know a type of area of interest that you have, is that they have major programs. So during your sophomore year, you'll apply to major programs and then take a specialized core of classes in your junior and senior year. That might be helpful towards a student who knows what they like, but it might not be as helpful to a student who would need more personalized instruction and help from an administration to help guide them through that process, right? So those are things, and they are difficult and real conversations that families and students need to have with each other. I do also see some questions popping into the chat, so I'm going to jump.
I
to the
see. When is
person.
the registration period for this year's exam is the first question.
So that one has not been determined yet. And also something that was very new for this past testing cycle is that students were tested in their own school across the city at public schools. And then there were separate locations that students from private and charter schools tested on the weekend. It hasn't yet been determined if the DOE will use the same system or if they will shift back to the previous system, which were all weekend test dates.
Thanks, Christian. I also see if you scored high enough to meet the cutoffs for multiple specialized high schools, do you get multiple offers to choose from, or is it only one offer for the highest priority school listed?
Yeah, so this is actually a piece of misinformation that we see existing year after year. The way that you get into a specialized high school is based on just as much how everyone else that took the test the same time as you scored. You don't want to think of it that you need to get a minimum score to get into a school. Instead, what you need to think about is all the students who scored higher than you, whether they've taken up all the seats at a school. So the way that it works is that the student that has the highest score, right, which has the closest to 100% in each section, and you can read more about that in the Shazat scoring section in the guide, that student will look at their choices that they put in order. So if they put that their first preference is high school for math, science, and engineering at City College, they'll get an offer there because there are still going to be seats. And you just keep going down the list by how students scored. So the scenario that I try to give students when they're trying to think about this, let's say that Staten Island Tech opened a NASA program and students could become astronauts in high school next year. A lot of students would then want to go there. What people see as the cutoff score, which is really just the last student to get in and their score, that would get higher the more interest that Staten Island Tech is getting. So it'd be harder to get in. Because it's impossible for you to know in advance how everyone else is going to score, I think that students getting prepared should just work on getting as high a score as they themselves can get. And then just think, if I got into every specialized high school, which one would I want the most? If that school was off the table, which one would I want the most? And move down there for putting in their preferences.
Thanks, Christian. I want to keep us moving along with the agenda. And actually, one of the questions in the chat is about preparing for the specialized high school exam, which connects really great with our next panelist, Patrick Barry, who works for the Department of Education in the Office of Equity and Access and runs one of the specialized high school prep programs, DREAM. So Patrick, if you want to talk a little bit more about that and preparing for the SHSAT in general.
Absolutely, thanks so much. Hi everyone, my name is Patrick Barry. I've been running the city's DREAM Specialized High School Institute for the last 6 years. And I can talk to you about that, as well as talking about general preparation for the specialized high school admissions test. Before I do, I want to get a little sense of who's in the room. So does everyone know how to use the little hand raise button on their Zoom? You can use that, or you could actually take yourself off. You can put yourself on camera. Do they have the ability to put themselves on camera? You can put yourself on camera and actually raise your real hand, which would be great. I'd love to see faces. But can you either show up the fake little hand or your real hand in a smiling face? If you are here either because you are a student who just finished 7th grade or you're representing a student who just finished 7th grade. All right, so I see we got some 7th graders. You can put your hands down. How about people who are just finished 6th grade? Hands for those couple. No faces. All right, a face and a hand. Thank you. A thumbs up. And how about folks who just finished 5th grade? All right. If you're here because you just finished 4th grade or 3rd grade, or if you just finished pre-K, I don't know. I'm not ready to talk to you just yet. But everybody else I'm here to talk to. First, I'll talk briefly about the program I run, the DREAM program. Our program starts traditionally in January of 7th grade. This year, because of budget issues, we are just starting next week in July, and we hope to be back to a January start next year. Our program has both academic and income level eligibility requirements. To be eligible for the DREAM program, You have to meet our state test score cutoffs. This year, that was a 3.25 on your state ELA test and a 4.0 on your state math test. And you have to have an income considered, it used to be called free lunch eligible before all school lunches became free, but it's the Title I federal income level. And the way that we know about that is you fill out a form at your home school every year. Usually the principal's really bothering you to get it in by October. It's called the Family Income Inquiry Form, and that form will alert us, along with your state test scores, that you're eligible for DREAM. We then reach out to everybody who's eligible. In a normal year, that happens in November and December. This year, since we had a late start, that happened in February, March, and April. I'm going to put our website down here, and you can take a look and see if you think you're eligible this year. Now, if you think you're eligible this year, there's a website on the web page. Sorry, there's an email address on the web page I just shared. You should email that address as soon as possible if you haven't heard from us this year and you think you meet the income requirements and you think you meet the state test scores. Now, we're a small team. There's 3 of us running this 5,000 student program centrally. And we're at our busiest time. So if you don't think you're eligible this year, but you have questions, it's going to ask that you wait a couple weeks, maybe till the middle of the summer, and send those questions in when we're going to be able to answer you when we're not launching a huge program. And so that's what DREAM is. And we provide students with prep for the specialized high school admissions test, as well as time with guidance counselors to make you real experts on the high school admissions process that Christian just went over. So not everyone here is going to be eligible for DREAM. I personally do recommend that folks prep for this test. That doesn't mean you have to go out and spend $4,000 on the most expensive prep course. In fact, I would really hope that you didn't. When I talk to folks about prep, a couple things that I like to say. One is, you may have heard that there are folks out there who've been prepping for the SHSAT since they were in the 3rd grade. And you hear that and you might think, oh no, I'm too late. There's no way I'm going to be able to prep as much as them. I want to make sure that you know right now that that's not true. There is not enough SHSAT prep material in the world to have someone prep from 3rd grade till 7th grade. So if you are a 7th grader, if you just finished 7th grade and you have not yet started preparing for the specialized high school admissions test, you do not need to panic. In fact, no one needs to panic. You have more than enough time to prepare. The best possible resource is the one that Christian already shared in the chat. Specialized High School Handbook has the 2 practice tests created by the DOE with their partners who create the actual SHSAT. Since no past SHSATs are ever released to practice with, these 2 practice tests in that book are the books that all those private companies use to write all their questions. There are 2 practice tests in that book. They have the answer key and explanation for all the answers. I recommend that folks at the beginning of their prep time take one of the 2 tests, take it seriously in a quiet environment, time yourself for 3 hours. Once you're finished, go over every single question, check your answers, read the explanations. Then decide how you're going to prepare. If you want, maybe you're eligible for DREAM and you're going to join DREAM. Maybe you like to study on your own. There's plenty of over-the-counter SHSAT books that are available online or at bookstores. Maybe you want to join a test prep course and pay some money for it. Maybe you have a neighbor who goes to a specialized high school who you want to find and ask for some tutoring. I recommend that you do your course of prep, however you decide to prep. And then as it gets to maybe about a month out before you take the test, you take that second full-length test from the Specialized High School Handbook. You'll see your growth. You'll know your areas of strength. And we at DREAM recommend that when you're on the test, on test day, that you start with your strengths, that you get all those points that you can from what you're good at. And so you need to know going in what your strengths are. My other recommendation in preparing for the SHSAT is to remember that if you don't get an offer to a specialized high school, the world is not going to end. You yourself as an individual, your talents, your friends, your loved ones, your hobbies, everything that you bring to the table in this world is more important than how you do on that test. And I tell you that not only because it's true, but I tell you that because you're going to actually do better on the SHSAT if you believe that. If you go in on test day thinking that my future hinges on this, you're not going to be in the zone that you need to be in to be confident, comfortable, relaxed to succeed on that test. So those are my tips. And my big one, if you're a parent, a guardian, an adult out there, my biggest tip is don't panic about any of this. Make sure you get all the information that you need. Help your student maintain their perspective. Don't believe rumors that people down the block have been preparing for 7 years. It's not true. Don't believe that it's too late to start now. You're going to have success in the process of preparing for the specialized high school admissions test. Even if you don't get an offer, will help you be stronger in your 8th grade math and ELA and more ready for whatever grade high school you get into. So with that, I'll pass it back.
Thanks, Patrick, for sharing all of those great tips and resources for families on the call, for students on the call. I'm sure it was really, really helpful in preparing for this journey. I know we probably have a few questions. We will definitely come back to them later, but I'd love to keep us going with the agenda. And I'm excited to introduce Crystal Bonds, who is a principal at one of the specialized high schools and can share a lot more about that one and probably a few others that she's come across in her days.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Actually, this is the High School for Math, Science, and Engineering. That's what it looks like here, nestled in the corner of Convent Avenue at City College. But I'd like to share, I'm not only the principal of this, the High School for Math, Science, and Engineering. I was also an assistant principal at Brooklyn Tech for many years. My daughter went to Bronx Science. I was one of the APs who ran summer school for Stuyvesant, and I'm very friendly and familiar with all of the schools. And I have to say, you really can't go wrong with any of them. They are very different, but they are unique. My school here, the High School for Math, Science, and Engineering, I'll give you an example. We have a program where we're the only full day high school who is at Mount Sinai Hospital. So the 11th graders go in the morning, if you have choose that track for science in the morning, and the seniors go in the afternoon. And they are working with and partnering with doctors. They're even in the operating room. They don't touch. We've only had maybe 1 or 2 pass out, but for the most part, everyone, they learn so much. But then you have a Holocaust museum at Bronx Science. You have planetariums. You have petting zoos. Brooklyn Tech has rooms large enough to build homes in. We have career changers where there's 6 engineers, architects, actuaries, people who are in industry who come to these schools, and they're teaching hands-on experiences of things that you like to do. But you may say, okay, I like STEM, so I want to go to math, science, and engineering. I want to go to tech. But what you also have to remember is that you still have to fulfill your core classes for state requirements. And so even in the junior year, you only get 2 or 3 classes that are in these specialty areas. So it's not like your whole experience is just that, because we have people who are interested in the arts, right? And we also still have strong humanities. So although these schools may have a strong STEM, we're also strong in humanities. And the let's say Lehman, who's strong in humanities, they also have strong science classes. But my tip to you is, it's about the fit. What is the right fit? These schools only service about 15 to 16,000 young people per year, if you just count from our 9th to 12th graders, and it's 1.1 million students in the city of New York. So it's not always which school you go to, but what you do with it, right? And so these schools, they do change lives. They have so many things and so many great things to offer. But it's, what is it that you want to do? My daughter went to Bronx Science, one of them. My son said, no, it'd be social suicide to go to a school where my mother works, because I would have no friends, because my mother's the principal or the AP, right? So he went to Frank Sinatra, but yet they're both engineers. They're both engineers. One is a software engineer, one's a civil engineer. But I would encourage you to not only visit the schools during open houses, which is in the fall, typically in the fall, but also go try to commute to see what it's like to get there, right? If you live in a different borough, because our schools pull from all 5 boroughs. Go after school to see what the kids are like after, see the vibe of what it's like. Do you want large? Where when I was at Brooklyn Tech, some of the events were larger than life. They have 100-year-old history and it's great. But if you wanted a small school, you can't even cut a class at the high school for math, science, and engineering because we're that tiny, we know who you are. Right. So it's what is it that you're looking for? What is it that you want? So when you go to the open houses, you explore and you walk around, you can find that. Also, with there's the Dream program, but prior to Dream, it was called MSI, Middle School Initiative, and we used to, I used to run one. But also remember, if you don't make it into Dream, most of the schools do have a middle school initiative. We run our own for those who, so we want to encourage practicing for the test. And so it's a practice for the test. You get to know about our schools. So I do encourage you to reach out to the schools and to look into that. But I'll tell you a story of a young woman that I had in my school, and she says, coming to this school changed my life. I lived in the Bronx, and her stature was she was a very large girl. And she says that the school that she went to, she fought a lot. She had a bad reputation, and she was a good tester. So she tested, she got into the school. And she said, it changed my life, where I found that I didn't have to use my size or my being angry to get to people to be understood, but I used my intellect. And she knew that it was never for lack of propensity or her acumen, but it was just that maybe I didn't have the opportunities, right, and access. But when she came to the school, it changed, because now she changed her Facebook profile. She was like, I'm nice. I don't have to do certain, the things that I used to do. So I would just encourage you to visit the schools. All of the schools have Facebook accounts. Get to know some of the young people. If they have events, usually the events are open to the public. See what it's like when you go there. These schools are great. And again, if you don't get into a specialized high school, you will still be just fine. Just remember who you are and whose you are, and straighten your crowns and for kings and your queens and queens, and do the best that you can. And I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Crystal, for sharing that perspective. I'm sure it was really helpful for the audience to hear that coming directly from a principal and someone who's worked in a lot of the specialized high school spaces. I'm really excited for the next part of the agenda, where we'll be hearing from some specialized high school alumni, some prospective specialized high school students, and even the parent perspective of someone who's had children go to specialized high schools. So I would love to, for our panel, pose the first question, and I'll kind of select who goes, and you can do your little intro before you give the answer. But I'd love to start with, how did you prepare for taking the specialized high school admissions test? And maybe we can start with our recent graduates of the specialized high schools. Yasmin, you want to go first and introduce yourself?
Yes, I'd love to. Hi, everyone. My name's Yasmin. I went to Brooklyn Tech. I was class of 2020. I graduated last year, and I majored in law and society. I prepared for the SHSAT during 7th grade. I took a semester prep course at an outside school at a learning center outside of my middle school. I went from January to June of my 7th grade. I went once a week for about 3-4 hours, and they just taught you math and English, and they prepared you like that. And then I prepared for the test over the summer individually. I just bought a few books and just practice on my own for that, and that was my only way of preparing. I did not prepare prior to 7th grade.
Thanks, Yasmin. Amir, what about you?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Amir Davis. I also recently graduated from Brooklyn Tech as a member of the graduating class of 2020. And yeah, so personally, I started seriously preparing for the SHSAT fairly late, which isn't the end of the world, but I wouldn't recommend it. So I started the summer before the test, so my 7th grade summer. And I basically dedicated a good chunk of my summer to hitting several SHSAT books and studying hard. My dad actually had a connection with a student at Brooklyn Tech at the time. He can probably talk more about that. But basically, he came over every day during the week. We went through different concepts that would commonly show up on the test. And over the weekends, I would take practice tests where my parents would basically lock me in the attic for 3 hours under testing conditions and grade my test after I'd finished. So that's basically how I studied. I was extremely fortunate because my middle school's curriculum was really, really accelerated. So I would have taken geometry before the 8th grade, which isn't that common. And I was able to get away with putting studying off a little, but I still had to work really hard to get into testing shape despite that advantage. And I think that's really important to realize because the test really is a battle of attrition and you need experience under testing conditions or else the combination of length and high stakes will eventually eat you up come testing day. So that's how I prepared for it. Yeah.
Thanks, Amir. I think we actually also have a student who is about to enter a specialized high school very soon in the fall. Matthew, do you want to quickly introduce yourself and say what you did to prepare very recently?
Hi, I'm Matthew Grayer. I got into Queens High School for the Sciences at York, and I started preparing for the test about maybe 5th, 6th grade, which is a bit early, but it's sort of okay. So I actually started at CASONY at about the fall of 2019, and I received a lot of help from their program, more than I did at the other big programs that I did. But then the pandemic hit, so we all had to go virtual. I started one-on-one lessons with a tutor from CASONY, and she was really nice. The tutoring that I got from her was instrumental in helping me pass because the key was consistency. So she was very professional. She went over subjects multiple times, but I was having trouble with it. And I think that the main key to passing the exam is practice. So even when you think you know the subject, you should keep doing it as if you don't know. So that way you can have a full understanding of what it is.
Thanks, Matthew, and congratulations on getting in. That's so exciting. I also went to Queens High School for the Sciences many years ago. It was great. Horace, I also want to tap you for that question. You know, from the parent perspective, what advice would you give parents on the call? What should they be doing to support their children in preparing for this exam? Horace, I think you're on mute.
All right, we can check that box on Zoom. Someone did start speaking and was on Zoom and it had to be me, okay. As a parent, I think one is to ensure that your child starts early. There's some that may wait, but the longer you wait to prepare for the exam, I think the more time and intense the preparation becomes. And so I would say really start early. But as Patrick had said before, look at your resources. So many times I hear from students who have, attended these schools or didn't attend the schools. It's like, if I had only known that my neighbor attended this school, I would have reached out to them. So there are resources that you can reach out to. I had a colleague whose son attended Brooklyn Tech. And as Mir said, he spent some time with him preparing for the summer. So I think really understanding the resources that you have is important in terms of preparing for the test. And the other thing is, especially as you go up to the test, you need to take the test under testing conditions. I would suggest multiple times that you take the test, spend the 3 hours, because the day that you take the test is not the first time that you want to spend 3 hours. It is important to go through, understand, as Patrick said also, what is your, the area that you're strongest in, so that you can target that area in your preparation. So that's what I would say as far as the preparation goes.
Thanks, Horace. I'd also love to explore just long-term thinking and what the specialized high school experience really means in that vein and what you can gain from that. I'd love to turn it over to someone who's a little later in their educational and career journey. Kareem, do you want to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about how going to a specialized high school kind of impacted maybe your college choice and just your college and career trajectory?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. So, hey everyone, my name's Kareem Stanley. I went to Queens High School for the Sciences. I graduated in 2013, and I'm originally from Queens, New York. I'm of Jamaican heritage. I guess that's just an important thing that I mention on these types of calls, I guess. So I graduated from Queens High School for the Sciences in 2013, and I think that Queens High School for the Sciences was largely the reason for, all of my success moving forward. I oftentimes tell people that it is the point in my life that changed the trajectory of my life. Before going to Queens High School for the Sciences, I didn't really feel challenged in school. I had trouble in middle school with getting in altercations with other students and that type of thing. And I really honestly felt like just going into the school process, I didn't feel challenged in school. So I found other things to take up my time. And then now going into QHSS, just had the challenge there and had the quality teaching that I felt like I needed in order to succeed. So after going to QHSS, I ended up going to Columbia for my undergrad. I did a chemical engineering degree and worked as a chemical engineer for a few years before coming back to school. And currently I'm at Harvard doing a law degree and a business degree. So all of these amazing things that have happened in my life, I largely attribute to having the ability to go to Queens High School for the Sciences.
Thanks, Kareem. Amir or Yasmin, I know you guys are early in your college journeys, but is there anything you'd say about Brooklyn Tech and how that kind of influenced your college pathway?
Yeah, actually, I am first generation, so I really had no idea what colleges I was going to be applying to, how to apply to colleges, how do you even start with that entire process. I felt very overwhelmed, but I think that the specialized high school I went to, Brooklyn Tech, does a very, very good job of help guiding you through that. The college office is really amazing, and they set you up with individual counselors who walk you through your specific goals, what you should be doing, and setting milestones for you to make sure that you're on the right path. I currently attend Cornell University. So it was really just an amazing experience to have them guide you through it, especially breaking down the application, and they get you started maybe junior year or even sophomore years when they first introduce it to you. So they make sure that you know what you're doing, and you know that you should be looking for colleges based on interest, based on scholarships, based on academic merit, all of those things. So I think that going to a school that it focuses on college readiness really, really helped me through getting to college.
Yeah, just piggybacking off what Yasmin said, obviously, Brooklyn Tech definitely provided a multitude of resources that helped me prepare to get into college and helped me during the college application process. I'm currently a freshman at Stanford University. And yeah, in terms of in class, definitely the rigor and really all the courses that I took helped prepare me. And first week going in, and I'm thinking, high school classes aren't really that different from college classes. So definitely I'm pretty prepared for what's coming forth in the rest of my college career. So yep.
Thanks, Amir. I'd also like to just take a quick second. I know Christian, who you heard from earlier, is also a specialized high school alumni of Brooklyn Tech and has a few words he wants to share from the alumni perspective.
First, I just want to reiterate what Ms. Bonds said in the chat. Also, Ms. Bonds, I'm sorry, but you were at Brooklyn Tech when I was. I don't think I'll ever be able to call you by your first name. But when you are going there the day of the test, please do not come 2 and 3 hours in advance. I have worked the site for like 4 years now, and every single time we have some families that showed up 2 and 3 hours in advance. And the only thing that happens is we tell them they can't go in yet. Then the child gets upset at the parent. Then the child gets in trouble for getting upset at the parent. And now they're unhappy right before they test. Okay. So, not worth it. It will tell you your arrival time and it'll tell you when the test is going to start. For instance, it's usually about 8 in the morning. Everyone gets sent in. No one gets to start earlier than other people as long as you get there on time. And when you go up to the room, there's usually 30 minutes of instructions that they read you. So you are okay. Plan your commute, right? Give yourself that grace period of 15 to 20 minutes to be there early, but please no 2 to 3 hours in advance. What I was going to say about being an alumni is one of the other things about going to a specialized high school is the ways that you are challenged in having an original idea, advocating for yourself, and crafting an argument, I think are some of the top skills that prepare you for life beyond that. Every single specialized high school alumni that I've ever interacted with has, gone over. You really get challenged those 4 years. And once you get outside of it, those are the things you need for job skills, just in life generally. The other thing is that so many students have gone through the specialized high schools and developed out into different avenues of life that you will find other specialized high school alumni in so many places. There are so many people who have met them in job interviews and gotten connected with them. And it is helpful in, having more doors open later on in life. Obviously, as a specialized high school diversity outreach specialist, going to a specialized high school helped me get into my job. But there are so many other specialized high school alumni, and many of us even have, Facebook groups and such that we stay in touch with each other. But it really does help. And there have been other jobs that, going to that specialized high school has given a leg up because the person on the other side of that table knows that there is a certain level of work ethic that I had to have shown to graduate a specialized high school. And then I'll end by, yes, Ms. Bonds was correct. I definitely recommend bringing at least a bottle of water and a small snack, but nothing noisy is allowed to be eaten during the test. Throwing it back to you, Ashley.
Thanks, Christian, for all of that helpful advice. I know we're almost at time, so I just want to take a few minutes. Are there any questions that any of the audience members have for the panelists? If you do, please pose them in the chat. I'm sure they would love to answer and give their perspective. Oh, well, one question that I think while everyone else is thinking of their questions, this could be for you, Christian, or for you, Patrick. Would you say that it's harder to get in as a 9th grader versus an 8th grader?
Thanks for reminding me. I meant to answer that previously, but I didn't want to answer it while Patrick was talking. So I'll answer that one, and then the question that just came in the chat. Technically, yes, it is harder because there are, a lot more students that are testing than seats if you look at the ratio, right? So Ms. Bonds talked about a lot of the students that test each year, right? So there's sometimes around 25,000 testers for a small 1,500 number of seats. And then for potential 10th grade seats, there are much fewer in each specialized high school. So if you even just have a few hundred testers, but there's only, let's say, 30 seats across the specialized high school, it's still going to be very difficult to get an offer. They don't publicize the number of seats that are available at each specialized high school, since that number fluctuates each year and students test. But I do just want to help you manage those expectations, and it is more difficult. I also see that y'all helped out in the chat answering about ranking your preferences. I'll just say again, if you take the test, whenever they get to your score after giving seats to everyone higher than you, they just go through your choices and go, are there seats left at any of these schools? And then you'll get into the highest one.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Christian. Yeah, Horace, I'm going to pass it over to you.
No, not to end. I got a question that I don't think anyone's asked this, and we've talked about dream, and this would be for Christian or Patrick. Could you just tell us a little bit about the Discovery program and how that relates to the specialized high schools?
I will take this one. First, Discovery is not the Dream program.
Let me second that. Discovery and Dream are not the same.
Number one question we get about Discovery is this the Dream program? It is not the Dream program. The Dream program is a preparation program. The Discovery program is an invitation-only program for students who tested as 8th graders, right? So if you're a 9th grader testing for 10th grade seats, you cannot be eligible for Discovery. The second thing for Discovery is each year, after all of the offers are given out during admissions, the last student to get an offer to any specialized high school, their score becomes what is called the last qualifying score. So this administration of the test, the last qualifying score was, I believe, 481. What the Discovery program is for students who are disadvantaged, and there are a few different criteria, and they get updated each year as needed. For students that fall into that disadvantaged status and scored just under that last qualifying score, they may be invited to take part in the Discovery program. What the application of Discovery is they go to a summer bridge program effectively at the specialized high school, and provided they go to the school, well, it's been virtual during COVID, but go to their classes, do the classwork, any additional work that's provided to them. At the end of the summer, they will receive an offer to that school. Sometimes students go through Discovery and still choose to accept whatever program they got from their high school application. Sometimes students accept the specialized high school offer. And that is how Discovery then works. You are only invited to one Discovery program based off of your specialized high school preferences. Now, here is who cannot be eligible for Discovery. We get this every year. So let's say I took the specialized high school exam and I scored a 531, and I only put down one specialized high school. And I didn't get into that one, so I don't have an offer to a specialized high school. But students who scored below me still got offers. I can't ask to go to Discovery just because I didn't put all 8 choices, so I didn't get into a specialized high school. I'm not going to be eligible. I hope that was like a good, brief summary.
Christian, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So I don't have to rank all 8 scores to be Discovery eligible, right? I just have to score below the last qualifying score. Is that right?
Correct. So if you put down preferences and they're less than all 8 schools, that's totally fine. You may still have a chance for Discovery, but it really just depends on your score. There is no way for you to know or game the system to try to get a little bit less points so you end up in Discovery, because you have no idea what score is going to be that last qualifying score each year. Also, I mentioned before, the specialized high school admissions test scoring section in the handbook. Please look at that, because families should understand the specialized high school admissions test is graded in a very complicated, or I guess I'll say complex, and interesting way. It is not an exam where, one question equals one exact point value. It is actually more about how close you are to 100% in the section and how many students got wrong the questions that you got right.
While we wait for other questions, if there are any, as a parent, I'd just like to take a moment to provide some perspectives. And it's in line with what's been said before. There really is no downside to engaging in the process and evaluating the opportunities to attend one of these schools, because you still have the high school selection process, which is separate and apart from this. So if you were to be accepted, I always try to say to my children that options are good. And so that's one thing that I would say. The other thing is, and I face this, I'm a Brooklyn Tech graduate, and it can be stressful for students when there is this sense of I need to go to a specialized high school because my parent went to a specialized high school. Hopefully, we all had excellent high school careers, but this is not the time for you to vicariously relive your high school experience through your students. It really is important that your child is involved in the process, in the selection process, and that this is something that they want to do. I'm not saying that you can't have conversations to influence that, but as far as the determination on wanting to go and going to a specialized high schools, it does not need to be additional stress associated with it. You have many other schools that are good schools outside of the specialized high schools also. And it's important that that is recognized, because we don't want students to feel that I did not get into a specialized high school and what happens to me now. I have plenty of friends who did not attend a specialized high school and are doing quite well in life. So this is just an option to pursue, a good option, but it's not the only thing. So I did want to say that from a parent perspective, because it is and can be especially stressful and challenging when these students hear so much about it, or if they had a parent who attended these schools. Um, and to qualify this just in terms of numbers, you have approximately almost 30,000 students that take this test every year. And there's about 5,000 seats. So that means that there are 25,000 students or families that will not be selected for this. Hopefully, there are things that will be done to increase the capacity, but not getting into the specialized high school does not mean that you're not smart. It does not mean that you're not going to be successful in life. It does not mean that you don't have other options. It does not mean those things. And it's important that students recognize that there are some that will, obtain an offer, and there are some that won't, but it's not going to be the end of life. So I did want to, chime in on that.
Thanks, Horace. Well, I don't see any additional questions in the chat, so I guess I'll just pose to the panelists who are on. Any final words of advice that you would give to the prospective hopeful students of a specialized high school, or the parents of students who are hoping to get into a specialized high school?
Can you hear me? Okay, my phone died, so I had to switch back to my computer. For the students that are on the call, I try to mention this every single time that I present. And I know that Amir is gonna know what this is. So at some point in your life, you are gonna have to be the person putting in the most effort for your education. Not your parents, not your teacher, not your guidance counselor. I think that the specialized high school admissions process and the high school application is a good time for it to become that time. At some point, you're going to have to stop looking to other people to give you answers as to everything you should do, for your education, for your future. And I think now is a good time to start. You're going to have a wake up moment at some point in your life where you're like, I wish I had started preparing earlier. And I don't want that to be the day of the test for you, or right after you tested, or right when you're getting an offer. So, you're taking a good step right now by finding out information in advance. And I hope that you take that and you continue moving forward.
I would also like to add something. Going to these, to the young people who are on the call, going to these schools, it becomes a lot of pressure from friends and family and people and expectations, right? So sometimes I've seen where people feel inside, they don't say it, but a little anxious because they want to make sure that they do succeed. They're anxious because they want to make sure they do pass the exam and they do get into one of these schools. And I would say when you it's difficult sometimes, but your headspace is very important about where you stay while you're preparing. And I agree with Christian about doing something different and putting onus on yourself. Get little study groups. right? Your friends who may be interested, sometimes you can practice together, test each other and do different things. So there's different nuances about preparation that you could do, but staying positive is very, very important. And not stressing about it and becoming anxious is very, very important. But to everyone who's on the call, it's great to see so many young people here earlier than you need the, than waiting for the 8th grade. That's so important to understand the lay of the land and what this really means and what is required and expectations. So I encourage you all and I wish you all the best.
Thank you for those final words. And one thing I'll say from my perspective as a specialized high school alumni that I don't really think was mentioned is don't discount all the options that are available. I think a lot of families and students like to think of the big three, so Stuyvesant, Bronx Science, and Brooklyn Tech as the only options available. I think the other schools that are there, I went to one of them, Queens High School for the Sciences, HSMSE, that Crystal Bonds is the principal of. I think those are amazing options. You should really explore what they're all worth. As someone who was naturally introverted as a high schooler, I think having that really small intimate environment of, it was 400 students total, 100 kids per grade, that was really helpful for me to grow and for me to have the support I needed. So it doesn't need to be Brooklyn Tech or Stuyvesant or Bronx Science. It could be any of them. So just don't count out all of those options. Horace, you want to close us out with any parting words?
Yes, yes. This has been amazing, Ashley. You've done a fantastic job of moderating this session and the panel. I know that there's so much going on and folks are busy, and I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to really thank you, Ashley, for moderating this panel. I'd like to thank Christian, Patrick, Crystal, Matthew, Kareem, Yasmin, and Amir for participating, taking time out of your schedule to provide the perspectives that you did. They were absolutely valuable. I listened and I think about it. If I were a student, I would be thinking about going to, pursuing this opportunity. The other thing I would like to recognize is the fact that this didn't just happen because of CASONY wanting to do this. We've been at it. It's something that we have done. But I want to recognize Black Spectrum Theater and their director, Carl Clay. This is an organization that continues to do so much for our community. For those of you not familiar with Black Spectrum Theater, they're located in Roy Wilkins Park. I would suggest that you think about, finding out about the programs that they have for our students, our youth, and support them when they're putting on their shows and so forth. So thank you so much, Carl, for enabling this opportunity. And I'd also like to thank our co-sponsors of this event, community leaders that stepped up to co-sponsor this event. That would be New York State Senator Leroy Comrie. We have Assemblywoman Alicia Hyman, who's co-sponsored this. And from the 31st district, we had Selvina Brooke Powers, the councilwoman who co-sponsored this. So thank you all. I see Carl, is there. I don't know if you you popped on because you want to say a little something, but you can have the last word if you'd like to say something. And other than that, everyone have a fantastic evening. Thanks so much for taking time out of your schedule to be a part of this event and information sharing in our community.
All I can say, excellent presentation. And I agree with you, Horace. If I was at that point, when I was going to high school and trying to figure out which one, I chose Newtown High School because it had a pre-engineering program. And, the idea of a specialized high school was something that really was something that always intrigued me. My brother went to Brooklyn Tech. And so you're right, there is a certain kind of pressure parents can feel or a student can feel about, wow, I need to do this. But, I found my way in life in terms of figuring out what I wanted to do. So it's not necessarily that you have to do this. It's a wonderful thing to do it, and to try for it, and to you know continue to pursue your dreams. But I just want to say that this was an excellent presentation to all of the presenters, to the principal. It's rare that you get a principal who can be as candid and as down to earth on a real student level, as she was. So my hat is off to her. And again, working with CASONY has always been a pleasure. And so it was our pleasure to work with you on this project. And my best to all of you. Thank you so much.
And look out for CASONY. We're in the community, and education is our passion.